everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Minutemen Film Podcast. How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing pretty great. How about you?
I'm doing good. Normal viewers might recognize quickly that is not Nick. I said the name Josh, and that's because our friend Nick is going through some personal stuff at the moment. I'm not going to go into detail, but in the meantime, Josh is going to be filling in for the MMF podcast every other week. And we're going to have a lot of fun in the meantime, Josh, right? What are we talking about today?
I believe we're going to be talking about Harry Potter. I think it was a good, like a movie that we both kind of grew up with and probably have a lot of opinions on.
Definitely. So when we found out that Nick couldn't do this week's episode, I had to get Josh to come on as a backup. And because we didn't have a lot of time to, think about or pick a movie, we're like, let's just do one that we both know like the back of our hand. And that is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I really love Goblet of Fire. I go back and forth between my favorite Harry Potter movies like all the time. I can never really truly pick one, but this one's always in the top.
Oh, I have a hard set favorite.
I know your favorite, and it's such a weird favorite to have in my opinion.
You do?
No hate. No hate. At least it's not Order of the Phoenix. Imagine a prequel movie with the actual Order of the Phoenix.
That might be pretty cool, but with the track record of the new Harry Potter universe movies, I don't know if I would be too excited by that prospect.
So, to get back on the Goblet of Fire, there is so much that we could talk about with this movie. And one thing that I want to talk about quickly is I think it's the most mainstream, audience-wise, accepted movie in the Harry Potter franchise. I feel like you could show it to anyone. You don't have to be a super big Harry Potter nerd. You don't have to know all the lore. It's very entertaining. It's very action-packed.
Right. Because it's fun.
You don't have to know all the spells to be entertained by Harry fighting a dragon, or Harry fighting mermaids. Right. There's just a lot of stuff in it that's easy to understand, and anybody could really enjoy without having to be a super Harry Potter nerd.
And I feel like they don't go too heavy on the because this is a problem with some of the other movies. They don't go too heavy on the exposition and having Hermione explain how the universe works. So they kind of showed more than told. So I liked that.
Yeah, definitely. Also, because it's such a big book, a lot of the diehard Harry Potter fans aren't really as big a fan of Goblet of Fire, because there was so much that they didn't include. But it's a huge book, and the movie's already 2.5 hours. Did you really want a 4-hour movie? Obviously we'd say yes, but you got to think how many people are going to go to the theater to see it. And a lot of people, especially at the time, probably would be turned off for a 4-hour Harry Potter movie. So when are we going to get our extended cuts?
I don't know. There's a lot of good scenes out there that didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
That
I don't think
funny.
There's been an official release.
There's the one with Snape catching
2 kids having sex.
Yeah. That should. Well, I don't know. It doesn't fit in with the theme of the rest, but it's just so funny that it should have been in there.
Yeah, I do like that scene. I don't know if they were actually having sex, but it just reminds me of the scene from Titanic and how they were in the car. So I always just assumed that they were getting freaky.
Nah, that wagon was bouncing, man. They were definitely having some wizard sex in there, bro.
Wizard sex. One last thing I want to say about it before we really start to dive in is I love the 2005 emo hair that Harry and Ron have for the movie. I love how we're in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, but because it's made in 2005, we're giving them the long hair. It's a requirement for this time period. And it doesn't even feel out of place.
I had to do it.
Yeah. They don't have that hairdo in any other movie.
I do remember as a kid thinking why is his hair just mad different? But I don't know.
It suits them well.
It didn't affect it too much.
It. Another point I want to make is I think this is the official debut of really good comedy in Harry Potter. In the earlier movies, the funny moments were kind of the kids being awkward with each other or not understanding something because they're kids. This is, in my opinion, the full debut of the teenage comedy and banter between the characters. They're all comfortable with each other now, so they could really dive in and just have fun with the character interactions. We start having problems how do we talk to girls? How do we get a date to the ball? They're making fun of Ron for having to for having to dance with McGonagall. Those kinds of jokes really weren't there for the first couple movies. And some people could make the debate that that transition in the series happens during Prisoner of Azkaban. And I agree, there is some elements of it starting, but
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot more feeling from the first two movies than where we get in the Goblet of Fire. I think that's the definitive, like, boom, this is a new era of Harry Potter starting.
Right. They definitely took the series in a kind of like darker direction for the third, and you could say that's the transition from like the kids movie to the adult movie, but then they brought back the fun for the fourth one. And I don't know. Tone's kind of inconsistent throughout the series, but
It definitely
sure,
is. But
they
I
kinda
think from
flip-flop
4
between
and on,
serious,
that same level
silly.
of comedy, like the teenage comedy, is consistent throughout. Like you said, it's a little darker. Like, as a young kid, there are some really scary moments in this movie. There's some in the beginning, and then towards the end, there's the big like holy shit moment that we'll get to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Were you ever scared?
Just like the transformation scene of Voldemort, that kind of freaked me out when I was a kid. They did a really good job there.
I think that's
Um,
the go-to one. The snake scene in the beginning is really creepy. It's like a nightmare before your
like
very eyes.
Harry being strapped up on the tombstone. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So let's just dive into the movie now. Let's just, actually talk about how it starts. So it starts out with the POV scene of Nagini going through some creepy, dusty old house. We see a character we recognize, Wormtail, a new character, which Barty Crouch Jr. We get like kind of a look of him, but it's not really like the first like good look of him. And then we hear the creepy voice of Voldemort, in his decrepit, half barely alive state, and it really
Kill the spare!
that was pretty good. We're setting up the climax of the movie with that scene, and it's done really well. It's like a great way to open up the movie. And then we get to Harry, and he's already with the Weasleys. And I always liked, for the first three movies, the beginning where he has to kind of escape the Dursleys. And I'm sure that in the book, I'm blanking right now, but I'm sure that there was a similar scene in the book for the fourth movie. And I wish that we had it for the Goblet of Fire, but then again, 2.5 hour movie already. Some things have to be done.
I kind of like that. It mixed it up, and it's just kind of like they went right into the action. Like they didn't waste any time in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought it was a waste of time. It's like a yearly tradition. He has to escape somehow,
This was definitely the fastest, maybe besides like 7. This is like the fastest paced.
It has to be. There's so much. The first thing that Harry and the Weasleys do, they go to the Quidditch World Cup. And this is awesome to me because we've never really seen what professional Quidditch looks like. It's always been just like the equivalent of a high school Quidditch match. I always wondered, what does like professional Quidditch look like? The NFL, like what's the NFL of Quidditch? And they did not disappoint. The Quidditch World Cup was awesome. And what happens on their way to the Quidditch World Cup, we get introduced to Cedric Diggory. He falls from a tree, which makes no sense. He was just waiting for them in a tree, and his dad was standing down there for like, the cool intro. And then we immediately see Hermione and Ginny like look at each other like, ooh. In case all the young girls didn't know that Cedric was very attractive, you had to see them on screen tell you, ooh. Like they do that shit a lot. Like whenever a director wants you to feel a certain way about a certain character, they'll show characters reacting that way. Team Edward or Team Jacob, I'll always be Team Cedric.
Are you Team Potter or Team Potter stinks?
Potter stinks, definitely. I have a lot to say about that scene. We'll get to that later. They get to the port key. What's a port key? Harry says. Well, I'm glad you asked, Harry Potter. Let's set up the climax of our movie.
Oh yeah, like they introduce like the integral like technology of the movie right at the beginning. It's like, oh, this exists.
Exactly. It's foreshadowing for later on. That's what I was getting at. The Quidditch World Cup was awesome, and I love the giant stadium and everything. I just was thinking to myself, all the Harry Potter movies in the Harry Potter universe, it's always about, fighting evil, saving the world. Like, it's such a heavy plot. What if we had a movie that was just about a Quidditch
Yeah,
team? You know, there's no like murder or killing or anything. Like, what if you took like a movie like Major League,
that'd
the
be
baseball
awesome.
movie, and made something similar with Quidditch? Like, I'm all in on that idea. I would love to have that movie made. It probably never will be made,
That would
but
be
I would
awesome.
love it. Hollywood, let me direct it.
Now that you bring up, that's one of my least favorite parts about the Goblet of Fire, though, is just that they didn't. Not much of a nitpick because the rest of the movie was good, but they really didn't dwell on like the World Cup long enough, in my opinion.
Bro,
Like they had a lot of potential there to do
we're
some
going to
cool
say this a
shit,
lot.
and they just like skipped right
Every
over
time
most
we
of it.
bring up this
They could,
topic, I'm just going to say 2.5 hours. Because it's so true.
all right, we need the Snyder cut,
Yeah.
like you
But
said.
one thing they did show that was cool was the Irish came in, and then the Bulgarians come in, and they show that shot of Victor Crumb,
Yeah,
and they just show how badass he is. Immediately, they establish that this character, you know, he's a big deal. You know, he's like a high schooler that's playing in the biggest sporting event in the wizarding world. That's a huge freaking deal.
that's funny. You brought up the point about like whether it's like Ginny and Hermione expressing that like Cedric is attractive or establishing that Crumb is like this like big shot. Like they do a lot of that in this movie, and I didn't really think about it, but like when they're all entering the school and it's like, yo, like we're the boys, like let's go fucking fire, and then we're the girls, butterflies. Ah! They do a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, that's so funny. But another thing that I noticed in this scene that I'm wondering if you felt the same thing is just seeing Harry smile and laugh with the Weasleys and Cedric. You know,
Yeah.
just watching the sporting event. It always brings a smile to my face because Harry had such a shitty life up to, you know, his early teens, and now that we're in the fourth movie, it's like it's not like he's, you know, finding his bearings anymore. It's like he has solidified friends for life now, and he's finally just enjoying his time with them and you know, going to do stuff together. So it's really nice to see him smile and react with them and just have a good time, especially, you know, considering all the shit that's happened to him and keeps happening to him every year. It's just nice that he could have a moment of fun. After the Quidditch match ends, we cut to them all partying in the tent. This is when we hit my first favorite line of the movie. We're gonna go into a lot of the favorite lines later, but this is the first one, and it's when Ron is like he's acting
Mhm.
like he's drunk, but he's like he's more than an athlete. He's an artist. And then Ginny's like, Ron,
Right.
I think you're in love, Ron. And then Fred, George, and Harry start going, Victor, I love you. Victor, I do. When we're apart, my heart beats for you.
Yeah, that was so
Yeah, they're
funny.
at such a high point of euphoria and just partying together, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, the Death Eaters attack. Fuck. And they're creepy looking, dude. I remember when I saw that in the theater for the first time, I was like, whoa, this is not the Harry Potter I remember. Yeah. And it's so obvious now, you know, that we're grown ups that they're definitely supposed to be like the KKK. Like they wouldn't have made the points on their head like that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But it makes sense, you know, they're all about the things that they believe in are inspired by, you know, evils like that, like Hitler and
Uh,
the KKK, stuff like that inspired the Death Eaters.
right.
And then we have some more foreshadowing, and we get our first really good look at Barty Crouch Jr., played by David Tennant, the Ninth Doctor. I think he's the Ninth Doctor. Or maybe he's the 10th Doctor. I don't remember. I'm not a Doctor Who expert, but I did see a lot of David Tennant episodes. He does a fantastic job as Barty Crouch Jr., in my opinion. He's not on screen a lot, but whenever he
I
is, he
agree.
really steals the scene. Like the tongue thing. Like, bleh, yeah. Hello, Father.
Yeah, he summoned his inner Jim Carrey for those
Yeah.
scenes.
Like the tongue and stuff. He does a great job. And you know what else that made me think of? Mad Eye Moody, you know, when Barty Crouch Jr. is, you know, being Mad Eye Moody with the Polyjuice potion, we see the exact same character in all the other appearances of Mad Eye Moody. He's acting the exact same. Like there's no indication of difference between Mad Eye Moody and Barty Crouch Jr. besides the tongue flick. So Barty Crouch Jr., of course, he was in the Polyjuice Potion, but also he's like the greatest actor of all time because the character didn't change at all. Have you ever thought about that?
No, I know what you mean. It's like, and that's what ended up giving him away. Yeah, no, I did think about that. When I was a kid, I would kind of think like, how long did he have this guy? Like, did he force Mad Eye to like train him on how to be him or something? Like, how are they exactly the same?
Yeah, even Dumbledore
Like,
doesn't notice. Like, come on, bro. Moving into the scene that you referenced earlier, I feel like the next major moment is when we get introduced to the other two schools. Durmstrang and what's Fleur's school called again?
Blah 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 blah. Something with a B.
Okay, my bad. I forgot the name of that school. But going back to the more teenage themes and jokes that we were talking about earlier, they show the shot of all the girls' butts, and then you just hear Ron go, "Bloody hell!" That kind of comedy is here. It's alive. And then the Durmstrang entrance is so goated, dude. I remember like reenacting that scene. I would have like one of those cardboard tubes with like wrapping paper and go like, "Hooah, da, 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 hooah, da." Duh, duh. And if you ever go to Universal Studios, I think they do the Durmstrang show a couple times a day. Like they have guys come out and do the performance. Have you ever seen that live?
Wait, they do that at Universal? Oh, I didn't get to see that. No,
Yeah, they do it
when
like
I
2 or
went.
3 times a day. I think they have a bunch of guys come out. They do flips and stuff, and they spin the staffs just like the movie.
Don't get me started on Harry Potter World. I'll just say I had to wait 3 hours for that virtual ride, and it sucked.
Dude, when I went to
not
visit
live up.
Nick in LA, it was like the end of August, and that's like the best time to go to a theme park because all the kids are going back to school. We got on the Forbidden Journey ride in like 5 minutes, and all the time was just walking through the line. That's all it was. It just took us forever to walk up to the ride.
Damn, you
I
got
know.
lucky.
Well, we just went at the perfect time. It's a lot more casual when you live next to one of those parks, obviously, to go at the right time. When it first opened, the entire Harry Potter world went, like all the fans in the universe, and to get on the ride, it was like a 7-hour wait. I would just go home at that point, dude. Going back to Victor Crumb, they do an amazing job of building up his importance and his lore. Like that shot where he's working out, and there's a group of like 30 girls chasing him, just watching him run and walk around Hogwarts. And you got to think, if a guy was really that level of fame and he was in high school, that would probably be happening and more. Like he probably wouldn't even be able to go outside his dorm without being swarmed and asked for autographs and pictures and stuff. Like imagine the guy who won the World Cup was in high school.
Right.
Insanity. Or a guy that scored the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl was still in high school. He wouldn't even be able to function. He probably wouldn't even be in school. He would just be a professional athlete. And then you see Ron when he sees Victor Crumb. He's like, "That's Victor Crumb!" He's so excited. The lore is built up so good for him, but it never really ends up paying off for me.
How
He
so?
doesn't really do anything of like super importance in the story. Yeah, he takes Hermione to the ball, and
He just gets used as a crony at the
Yeah.
end. He gets controlled by Barty Crouch.
I know.
That's basically it.
Like maybe if he came back in a later movie.
And then he's a shark.
Yeah, the shark part was cool. But maybe if he came back in like a later movie or something and helped them do something, I feel like it would have been more of a payoff. But they kind of build him up, and then he doesn't really do anything. I forget the name of the actor. It's blanking me. But the guy who actually plays Mad Eye did a fantastic job. Do you have any favorite moments from his performance in the movie?
Yeah, when he turned Draco into a
Yeah.
ferret. And then McGonagall comes out. It's like, "What on earth are you doing? Teaching." I don't know. That was so funny. They didn't use him enough after that
Yeah,
movie.
he should have been a bigger character in this franchise. But my favorite moments for him in the movie, when he's actually teaching in the classroom, and Seamus is trying to put gum under the desk, and he's like, "You need to find another place for that chewing gum, Mr. Finnegan!" He yells at him, and he's not even looking. And there's another point.
That just makes me think of the YouTube poop, man.
There's a YouTube poop of that?
You haven't seen it?
No, you
Oh
got to
my-
send it to me. My other favorite moment, I don't remember
Yeah, check
I don't
it out.
remember what the student says, but there's this one point where he just turns around and throws erasers. You know what I'm talking about? He just turns around and just whips something at them. Like,
Yep.
I like teachers like that. Of course, not like serious throwing stuff, but like something that won't actually hurt someone. Like, that's always
Right.
funny to me. Let's dive into something that you mentioned earlier. So, the whole did you put your name in that cup? Goblet of Fire. Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire scene?
Right.
I was paying careful attention to that when I was, skimming through the movie this time. And I think it's really exaggerated, dude. It's like an infamous meme since 2005. People have been talking about
What,
it.
like people's opinion
Yeah,
of it?
it's not that bad.
Do you mean okay? I mean, it's the book sycophants that are like really for some reason offended by that.
Yeah. I mean, in the book, it's like Dumbledore approaches Harry and calmly asks him. Dumbledore is definitely intense and a little aggravated when he grabs Harry and he goes, but he says, "Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" Like he's stern with him, but he doesn't scream at him. The meme itself over the years and how much it's been talked about, in my mind, he like grabs him Joker Dark Knight style and slams him against the wall and he goes, "Did you put your name in that Goblet of Fire?" And that's not really what happened.
Right.
So my mind has been skewed from the memes for the past 20 years almost.
In Dumbledore's mind, it's like he either put his name in the Goblet of Fire or like there's something crazy going on in the school he doesn't know about. Like he's gonna be like pretty rattled. Like I don't know.
It's definitely not how the Dumbledore in the book asked the question, but it's nowhere near.
Right.
It's not really as close as the internet makes the scene seem. Rita Skeeter, what do you think of her character?
I thought she served her purpose well, and that was being really fucking annoying. But she did a good job.
I love it because it's the perfect personification.
Portraying the character.
Yeah, I loved it because it's the perfect personification of like headline journalism. Basically, her story is already written before she even does the interview. Like she already has a set opinion, a set thing she's going to say. She's just interviewing the person to take things out of context and just further support her narrative. And the character just embodies, headline journalism, which is something we see today all the time, with different, YouTube videos, video essays, or even articles still.
Yeah, right. Wizards still have to deal with clickbait and dishonest interviews and all that.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool.
All right, so now we can talk about the Potter stinks scene. You stink, Potter. Potter stinks. I like this scene because it establishes that even though Cedric and Harry are competing against each other, we've learned that Cedric's not really a bad guy. Like, yeah, he's a jock and stuff, and he's not really friends with Harry, but he doesn't actually, hate Harry or anything like that. He's like, oh, I told him not to wear the badges, which is, a bunch of bullshit, but he doesn't want to be, disrespectful to Harry.
He doesn't go out of his way to be an asshole
Exactly.
to him.
Yeah. And Harry extends the olive branch. He says the first task is dragons, and it pays off later because Cedric does him a favor. Put your egg in the water, man.
Mull things over in a bath.
Yeah. So I like how it establishes their friendship. Another one of my favorite lines comes up in that scene. A line I've actually said to you before. Do you know what it is?
Tell me.
So Harry goes up to Ron, and he's pissed at him, and he goes, "You're right, foul git, you know that?" And then Ron goes, "Anything else?" And Harry goes, "Yeah, another thing. Stay away from me." And it's like the first time they really like knock heads in the whole franchise. And I've said that so many times over the years. You're right, foul git. You know that? I wonder what that actually means. That's British slang.
This might be the most British out of all the Harry Potter movies.
Really?
The humor, the lines and stuff. Yeah.
You're right, foul git. You know that?
No, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of like, and then they cut out some of it, like with like the Snape scene we were talking about, but there's a lot of like more British, like dry humor in this.
Yeah, definitely. Then we cut to Malfoy. There's not a lot of Malfoy in this movie. He's kind of just, in the background. He doesn't really come into the main plot that much. But when he's sitting on the tree, like a perfect bully scene, I have a bet going with my father. He doesn't think you'll last 10 minutes in this tournament. I disagree. I don't think you'll last 5. Like such a bully position. He's just sitting in a tree yelling insults down. We get to our first task of the movie. the dragon sequence. And, you know, I was talking about this earlier, how somebody who doesn't even like Harry Potter can see this and be like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. You know, this scene is awesome. Um, One thing that I always liked as a kid was seeing the scene where they pick out the mini dragons, because I always wanted to learn, you know, all the Harry Potter lore. Like, oh, there's a dragon. What are the other dragons? You know, what do they look like? And I remember pausing the screen, just trying to get a look at the other dragons. You get to see one of them. I think you get to see Fleur's dragon that she picks out, the green one. And then the one that Crumb picks out, you could kind of see a little bit of its wing in the shot. But I wish they just showed all 4 dragons. That would have been cool. More gotcha journalism in that scene, too, when Hermione hugs Harry. Remember, they get a picture of it? And then she makes an article about Hermione, like, calling her a hoe, saying she just has a taste for famous wizards. Rita was wrong for that one. You don't call a 14-year-old girl a hoe on the news. That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's true. A little sketchy. Nah, but yeah, the first task was great. It's a great action scene. Yeah.
What's your favorite moment? It's pretty tense. The suspense really rises, especially when Harry's like hanging onto the roof of Hogwarts. Like, what would have happened if he fell? Would Dumbledore use his magic power to stop Harry? Like, the whole fate of the universe and stopping Voldemort.
Arresto momentum. He would have just done that.
But he couldn't even see him. He was like miles away.
He would have just been... He's Dumbledore, bro. He can just... It doesn't matter. They'll just
Yoda Force moment, like, catch Harry in midair. But yeah, that scene is great. One thing that I can confidently say is the whole Yule Ball ceremony in the movie, like the storyline from start to finish, is fantastic.
Right.
From, you know, the moment where they're learning how to dance with McGonagall and Harry and Ron has to go up and dance with her. And she's like, take my waist. He's like, what? And then Fred and George are laughing. Ron's like, are you ever going to let him forget about this? Like, never. This is when we really dive into, you know, the first kind of teenage elements of the movie. Like, Harry starts, you know, facing troubles like, how do I talk to girls? You know, how do we get a date for the dance? They show him, like, going up to a crowd of girls, and he's like, he walks away. And then another favorite line of mine is when Ron's like, blimey, Harry, you've slayed dragons. If you can't get a date, no one can. And then Harry goes, I take the dragon right now. You know, I prefer to fight a dragon. And that actually feels like something that would have been in the book verbatim. So I really enjoyed that line. Another great part of that whole quest, that side quest of finding a date, is when either Fred or George didn't have a date. And Ron's like, if it's so easy, you get a date. And he just throws a piece of paper at a girl's head. He's like, you? With me? And she's like, yeah. That's great. And then Ron tries doing the same thing. He goes up to Hermione and he goes, you with me? And then Snape hits him over the head with the book. That scene was perfectly timed and perfectly filmed. And there's not a lot of Snape in this movie. He's kind of only sporadically in it, and then he's in it at the end, of course. Harry and Ron won't stop talking, so he keeps hitting them over the head, and then he finally grabs their heads and just, yeah!
Oh, that scene was hilarious. Yeah. That might be one of my favorite Snape scenes outside of, like, the 7th movie.
And then once we get to the ball, it's awesome. The music is great. I always liked that song, Dance Like a Crazy Elf. I forget the lyrics, but like, na 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 na.
Yeah, no, that was cool. They got rock music in the Wizard universe.
Exactly. It's like, it's cool to know that,
that was
the cool Wizard universe still rocks. Like, it's not all like prim and proper. You know, they still have some party elements in the wizarding world.
Because before that, it's like you would wonder, like, what do these wizards like do for fun? Like, they don't really.
They listen to like an orchestra, like,
and then, but like, nah, they got their own shit. Right. They just enchant a trumpet to start playing next to them, like floating in the room.
No, dude, they party. They crowd surf. They have Flitwick up in the air. Oh, put the little guy in the air. Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. Imagine if we were at prom and you took one of our teachers in high school and started crowd surfing them. Like, that would be a pretty legendary moment. What do you think of the bathtub scene?
A little weird, but it was like awkwardly funny.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy when you think about it. I think the Moaning Myrtle actress was like 30 years old, dude.
A reappearance of Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah, she was like 30.
Really? She looked like, I mean, like a kid.
I know.
Jesus.
She's doing a bathtub scene with
Well,
Harry.
and then Daniel Radcliffe was like a kid,
Yeah.
right? You just added another layer of creepiness to that scene that I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's no like, it's not really like meant to be, creepy in any way. It's just like the reality of a ghost watching you naked in a bathtub is just like scary.
Right? Yeah.
Neville's not in this movie that much, but he does play a key part with the gillyweed.
Yeah, he came in
Yeah,
clutch
he came
there.
in clutch.
That was probably like the first scene of Neville not just being like the punching bag or the guy who just has everything go wrong for him.
Yeah. And I love how right about when Harry's about to start the task, he's like, well, there's some debate of using gillyweed in freshwater versus saltwater. And Harry's like, you're telling me this now?
I love how Harry had the simplest solution, and then Crumb had to literally turn himself into a shark.
Yeah.
All the spells at his disposal, and he had to like literally become like brain dead.
Dude, I would love to become a shark. I wish I had that power.
Could be pretty fun.
So, do you have any thoughts on the mermaid task itself, like how they filmed it or the logistics of it? I know it's a very popular meme now to talk about that the audience didn't see anything. Like they're just staring at water for an hour.
Mm-hmm. I think it was just it was like a pretty tense scene. Like they used like the tension pretty well of like whether they would like make it to the surface and like the mermaids pulling him down. I remember that very distinctly.
Incendio.
And I thought it was like really well shot. I don't know if the effects really hold up, obviously, but
no,
like,
Harry Potter effects
they
hold
used
up.
what they had pretty well to like.
They're pretty good. The only scene I ever really noticed CGI in Harry Potter was in the Sorcerer's Stone, watching it on the really big, screens now with high definition. The scene where Neville's broom goes crazy, it looks like a PS2 scene, where he's like bouncing off the sides of Hogwarts and stuff. That's the only scene where it's like noticeably bad. There are other moments, but nothing as bad as that.
It almost makes you wish the technology didn't improve because, like, when I was a kid, like that shit looked real to me. It's like it's all relative.
Definitely. For this franchise, they use a lot of practical effects and CGI. So a lot of times there would really be something on screen. And then, of course, later on, as the movies go on, they did practical effects less and less. But still, it's a staple of really cool effects like Aragog, the basilisk head. Like, there's a lot of really memorable moments for me from the franchise.
Why are they able to get rid of Voldemort's nose so easily and like it looks pretty good, but then they couldn't get rid of Superman's mustache for Justice League?
So after the mermaid task, is there any scene that sticks out to you before the maze? I'm trying to think like what happens.
I have to think about it. Like,
is that when we see the pensieve scene?
Must be, right?
Barty Crouch Jr.
Yes.
Such a memorable scene. Hello, father.
Hello, father.
You are no son of mine.
Your nose. No, that was something I noticed as a kid. I was like, that's so dumb. The moment the guy calls him out, he just starts running instead of being like, no.
No, he was already trying to get out of there.
Like, I'm not a Death
He was
Eater.
trying to get out of there. He was slowly walking towards the exit. And then once he says his name, he starts running. And Mad Eye's like, fuck you, bitch, and knocks him off the thing.
I don't know. I feel like as smart as Barty showed himself to be throughout this movie, that was just really dumb of him. He didn't even try to deny it. He just starts sprinting out in a room full of wizards the moment his name is mentioned.
Well, dude, he had to get out of there because the guy had no reason to lie. The guy was already in Azkaban. Yeah,
I don't know.
If they stopped to question him, he would have been in custody. So he had to get out of there. There was no way out. Regardless, let's move on. So the maze sequence. This is probably the most notorious cut down of all the major scenes in the book. The maze had so many things going on in the book. There were spiders in it.
Oh, they got rid of a lot.
The Sphinx is very memorable.
Yeah.
Both things were in the Lego game. Just had to say that. Shout out to Lego Harry Potter. But they were not in the movie. And I also think out of the 3 tasks, I think the maze scene is kind of the lamest. It's just like getting attacked by bushes and stuff. So maybe having some spiders in there or the Sphinx would have made it a little more interesting. But of course, it leads to the climax of the movie, which is really the important part. The maze isn't as important. I also love the moment where Harry has that like hero's doubt moment where he's like, "Am I going to save Cedric, or should I go for the victory?" And then he makes the right decision to save Cedric.
Right.
It shows his integrity as a character. He always wants to do the right thing.
Out of all the tasks, that was definitely the one most like glossed over. They just wanted to get straight to the climax.
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's get straight to it, Josh.
But it was
They
cool.
grab the cup, and guess what? The thing we learned about the first 5 minutes of the movie, a port key. The cup is a port key. And in case you didn't realize it, Cedric straight out says it and goes, "It's a port key. Harry, it's a port key. It's a port key, Harry. Harry, remember the thing that we established at the beginning of the movie? It's that."
Yep.
But honestly, dude, I'm just going to go out and say it. This might be like the greatest on-screen debut of a villain in movie history. A lot of people instantly would say no because they just don't like Harry Potter as a franchise. They just write it off. But I'd go to bat for it, dude. It's slow. It had a payoff after, 3 movies. In the 4th movie, the biggest moment, the climax, he debuts, and he is creepy. He is intimidating. He's like nightmare fuel. Our main character is, trapped. The music is perfect. You know, how the score rises to his creation in the pot. It's just very disturbing, and it's nailed. 100%.
No, they did. And, like, you got to think, like, that's, like, an easy thing to drop the ball on. Like, the amount they hyped Voldemort up throughout, like, the first 3 movies, and even in the 4th one, he's just, like, some fictional force or, like, wise tale almost. Like, he barely has a presence, and then they have to, like, do this grand reveal. Like, it's a big task for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they really hit the nail on
I
the
also
head.
like Wormtail. He's like, the bone of the father, the blood of the enemy, and then he cuts.
The flesh of a servant.
Ah! He cuts off his own hand. It's like scary when he cuts Harry's arm open. You know, that's like a dark moment. You know, it's this young 14-year-old kid trapped on a statue. He can't move, and some creepy guy that he knows was his friend's rat for years.
Yeah,
slices open his arm. It's like
that's the darkest scene in all of. For such a fun movie, they had the darkest scene in the whole franchise. With
by
that.
far. I mean, there are some moments that I'd debate are like equally dark, like in 7 Part 1 when Bellatrix is torturing Hermione and she's screaming. That scene's pretty disturbing. But I think you're right, though. It has to take the cake. But there are other moments that you could also point to in the franchise.
It just doesn't have the same effect when it's like a spell versus like you're literally like seeing that shit viscerally. Like, I don't know. That definitely freaked me out the most as a kid.
And even that moment when Voldemort frees Harry, he goes, "We're going to duel. Pick up your wand, Potter." Harry runs away. "Come back here, Potter. I want to see the light leave your eyes." Something like that. "I want to see the look on your face when I kill you."
Dude, the moment when like they're about to start dueling, he hits him with the killing curse. Harry's like, "Expelliarmus," and their wands just collide. That was like one of the most like epic moments for me in a movie, bro. Like, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Like, that was so cool.
Like, oh my god.
I loved it. And then when he gets back, of course, and it's become one of the biggest memes on the whole Harry Potter, universe. When the band is playing, when Harry comes back with Cedric's dead body, there's a ton of memes. If you follow any Harry Potter meme page, they always play that music over like something dark.
That was such a sad scene, bro.
The music is fantastic. I love it's so emotional when it rises, when you find out Cedric's death. It's like the violin or whatever. And then the actor that plays Cedric's dad, bro, his moment, dude, he nailed it. We barely knew him. We saw him only for a little bit in the movie, but you could even in those couple minutes, you could tell how much he loved his son and how devastated he was when he noticed that he was dying, screaming, "My boy!" Another meme currently, which is annoying. It's such a heavy scene, but it's been turned into a meme. And another one of my favorite lines is when Harry goes, "He's back." Have you ever heard of Justin Verlander?
Nah, I don't really follow baseball.
Justin Verlander is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He notoriously always destroys the Yankees whenever he plays against them. So me being a giant Yankee fan, I was so happy when he signed with the Mets because it meant we weren't going to see him as often. And then halfway through last season, he got traded back to the Astros.
Mhm.
Instantly, the first thing that popped into my head was, he's back. And I posted that on my social media because it was so annoying that he was back. Because if he's on the Mets, you maybe will play him like once a year. But being on the Astros, you play him like 5 times.
Right. Then we get to the scene where Moody takes him up into, or Barty Crouch rather, takes him up into his office, and you get the polyjuice potion starting to wear off. What do you think about that scene? That was pretty crazy.
I love that scene because as soon as Harry starts to figure it out, Barty Crouch is like, he's in full panic mode and he doesn't even know what to say. He just looks at Harry like, marvelous creatures, dragons, aren't they?
Yeah. Just turns into Hagrid real quick.
No, he was trying to do the Mad Eye voice, but it's just like he doesn't know what to say. Also, he's like a freak when it comes to Voldemort. He's like, in the graveyard, were there others? In the graveyard, were there others? I don't think I remember saying anything about a graveyard, Professor.
Yeah.
He's like grabbing his own blood.
Oh,
the blood that runs through these veins runs through the Dark Lord.
I can almost taste it.
Taste it.
Barty was a freak.
Wasn't that from SpongeBob? I can almost taste it.
Yeah, Barty, just average Reddit user.
But but anyway, Snape comes in. They get to the bottom of Barty Crouch, the D transformation. They get him to admit, with a true serum, what's my name? Albus Dumbledore. Are you Barty Crouch? No. Is he in this room? Yes.
No.
But they find the real Barty Crouch. I mean, they find the real Mad Eye Moody. We get to the last scene in the movie, which is really sad because it really feels like if a high school had this kind of scenario where, one of the most popular kids in the school that was nice to everybody, passed away in some kind of tragic way, they would have an assembly like that where they would talk about, remembering him and honoring the person. And it feels so real, even if the movie has, a very dark, Empire Strikes Back kind of moment where the bad guys, in a way, kind of win. They're all standing together, like, this isn't the end of Hogwarts. This isn't the end of Harry Potter. We're going to work together. And even though it looks dark right now, we're going to persevere. It's a good way to end the movie.
Yeah, no, that shit hit pretty hard. Cedric doesn't really have that much screen time in the movie, but you still, like, really feel the loss. Like,
yeah,
they did a really good job of, like, making you root for the character.
Definitely. It's just an awesome movie all around. Goblet of Fire. It's near flawless. I would even give it like a solid 9 out of 10. Oh, by the way, I didn't say this at the beginning of the review, but this is automatically deemed a DVD rotation movie for me. All the Harry Potter movies will be. So when I do the DVD rotation chart, I'm just going to count Harry Potter franchise as 1 point on the DVD rotation. I think out of the episodes that we've done for MMF,
what is that?
Every time we do an MMF, I say, was this movie on my DVD rotation as a child, yes or no? And I think 3 out of the 4 movies we've covered are a yes so far, and only 1 was a no, which was The Princess Bride. But it was on your DVD rotation as a child, right?
I mean, actually, no. I don't know. It just, I think I had like the first 3, or the first 2 on VHS, and then the third one on DVD, and then that was it. The rest I saw in theaters.
Wow. It was like a tradition in my household.
When I got older, I rewatched them all on Netflix. But
it was a tradition in my household. Whenever a new one came out, we would get the DVD for Christmas, and we would watch it like Christmas night, me and my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So we had all 8 movies we'd watch.
I played the video game on GameCube, though.
Cool.
And it was not good. It was not good.
Dude, a lot of the Harry Potter games were flops. I was playing the Chamber of Secrets game with Christian a week or 2 ago, and Like 30 minutes into it, he's like, I
What
can't do this
platform?
anymore, dude. This sucks.
What platform?
PS2.
Like,
You know the game.
really? I have to like I have to disagree. I loved
We were playing
the
the
Chamber of
Whomping Willow
Secrets
level. Let me
as a
specify.
kid. Ah, skill issue. Okay, I see.
We could have beaten it. He just got bored of it. There was like this moment where he was just spamming X fighting gnomes for like 10 minutes. Just gnome, 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 gnome. No
Mm-hmm.
strategy, just spamming the X button. But anyway, dude, I think we covered almost anything. Do you have anything else that you want to bring up about Goblet of Fire or anything that we missed that you want to talk about?
Just why is it your like favorite out of all of them? If you had to like compare it to the others,
I don't know if it's like I said, I go back and forth on my favorite Harry Potter movie like all the time, but it's always in the
right?
conversation because of the reasons that I said at the beginning of the podcast. It's very entertaining. We're at a point with the
Mm-hmm.
characters where they're all comfortable with each other, so we can really have fun with their dialogue back and forth. I think it's the beginning of a new era of Harry Potter, like the teenage era where we get to that level of comedy, like the high school kind of drama, which is very entertaining to me.
Right.
And then also, it's the debut of, one of the best villains in movie history, Lord Voldemort. And it goes from being a very happy kind of high school movie to like, holy shit, what's going to happen next now? The villain is back. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a out of the park home run for Harry Potter fans, and for even people that don't like Harry Potter can still have a good time watching the movie. I think that was a good
Yeah,
answer, right?
I just have to agree. It's a great movie. Yeah, no, it's less detailed than because like my favorite movie is the third one, The Prisoner of Azkaban. I probably couldn't go into as much detail. You're definitely like really like into movies, like how they're structured, how they the effects and how what they do tonally. Like, but Prisoner of Azkaban just hits like a certain nostalgic point for me. Like I really like Lupin as like a side character, and then like the way it was shot was kind of cool. I have to go at number three.
I like number three too. I think Lupin's one of the strongest elements of the movie. The only reason that I don't hold it in the highest regard is because it's
Yeah,
kind of in that transition period. Like they're still wearing their robes a lot of the time. I know they have some sweatshirts on in some scenes, but it's kind of like the beginning of the second era
right.
of Harry Potter, but it also has a lot of elements of the first two. The guy who directed that one, that was the only one he did, was Prisoner of Azkaban. And I feel like there was a lot of goofy shit
Yeah,
happened in the movie that didn't even make sense for the Harry Potter world. Like, remember that sequence where he's in the invisibility cloak and he's like throwing Malfoy and his friends around and stuff? Like, it's a cloak that's over your head. You don't become like Superman because you have the cloak on. To grab
right.
someone's legs and pull them and stuff, and then be over here throwing snowballs, like it just didn't make any sense. And also, what about that sequence where he's walking around with a lollipop?
Mm-hmm.
That's just something that Harry would never do. There's just a lot of stupid stuff in the movie that I wasn't really a fan of.
Right.
And I also hate time travel in anything but Back to the Future. I think time travel causes so many plot holes in a franchise. And obviously, that movie introduced time travel to this franchise. And we kind of see the whole sequence in the climax, and then we see it again from a different perspective. And I would have just rather
Right.
had the climax be something else. And then as soon as the whole time travel stuff ends, then the movie just ends. Like I would have liked to have like another like follow up scene for 10 minutes or something. They kind of just get the firebolt, freeze
Right.
frame. See you in a couple of years with the next Harry Potter.
Yeah. I, yeah. No, those are definitely some like goofy moments. I think what I like most about the movie is like the way they like know how to like hold the frame. Some of these shots are more like long form slice of life dialogue instead of like cutting between. And I'm not saying it's like bad with the other movies, they're great, but like more like one liners and jokes and stuff. It's more just like long form
Yeah,
interactions.
it's not a bad
It's
movie.
like cool atmosphere. Like I feel like it makes me feel like I'm in Harry Potter the most out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with you saying it's your favorite movie. It's your favorite movie, so I wouldn't even say it's a bad movie. The only movie I think there's even an argument for being a bad movie is Order of the Phoenix. I feel like the book was already, not
Yeah.
everyone's favorite book, and then the movie,
And it's still good, but it's just bad for Harry Potter.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like you could even argue that that's like not a good movie. The direction is very all over the place. The structure, it's like, what are we building towards? Of course, Umbridge is the antagonist of the movie,
Right.
but just like the goal is very all over the place for me.
Yeah.
It's not as clear cut as some of the other movies.
No, I agree with that.
Not to get into the other ones though.
that had a lot of
Yeah,
flaws.
let's not dive too much into them. Today's focus was Goblet of Fire. So
Yeah,
everyone who made it to this point in the podcast, I thank you for listening to the whole thing. I know majority of our audience is watching, the clips and the highlight reels. We're trying to grow the audience for the podcast itself. So we appreciate you. And thank you, Josh, for filling in for Nick. I'm not sure when Nick will be
absolutely.
ready to come back. So as of now, you're going to be the main guy on the MMF pod. And then as soon as, Nick is ready to return, we'll have you spot on the Goblin Talk or whatever. So you'll still be on, one of our shows no matter what. But for now, thank you for filling in.
Right.
All right. That's it. Have a great day, everyone.
Absolutely.